a topic I have had pending for about 4 years now. And although I was prepared to discuss this 4 years ago, I wanted to get to the point where I felt I'm able to describe the experiences, effect, more than the experience itself, but also what I learned in the process. Most importantly, I wanted to express this once I felt like I had forgiven these individuals, not necessarily let go of what happened, but at least I had enough processing time to where I can objectively say, okay, I understand how it happened, why it happened, how the person got to that point, why I felt this way. Ultimately, what my takeaway was from this, to where if I were to be headed toward a situation like this in the future, I can either get away from it or not allow for it to get bad to where I linger trapped in the situation. This is not describing just one individual. What I'm getting ready to express right now is contributions from multiple people. I wouldn't want you guys to think that I'm blaming this on, say, a relationship that I may have had with a man, an issue with my mom, an issue with my dad, an issue with a manager. This is over the years, experiences that I consider were emotionally abusive, and overall their impact on me and how I processed it. So let's get into it. I'm going to start with what to me is the worst part of it. I want to just get that out of the way. To me, the worst part of being in an emotionally abusive relationship, when the other person does not want to hear how they are hurting you, but instead they blame you for it. They blame you for your reaction. They blame you for your feelings. They blame you for how things have gotten to that point. Even though your intention is to simply share that, hey, something that is happening is having this kind of effect on you, you don't mean to be controlling. You don't mean to be a manipulator. You don't mean to be sensitive. You don't mean to be insecure. You don't mean to be critical. But just please understand why I'm interpreting certain events in this unhealthy manner. It is not your fault that I'm finding something hurtful, but what I would like is to be in a situation in which I am safe to tell you that, hey, this perfectly innocent thing that is going on, for me, it has this detrimental effect. I'm not telling you don't participate in this thing. I'm not telling you stop enjoying yourself, nothing like that. I just wish to express to you that it is possible for me to interpret this event differently than you may be accustomed to. Again, I'm not attacking you. Just so you know, this is how it's making me feel. I'm trying to open the door for you to define for me what it is that this thing that you're doing that's conflicting with me is beneficial for you. That is your opportunity to maybe get me into something new yourself. But instead, you take a defensive stance and you start verbally attacking me, telling me that I'm crazy, or that I'm really insecure, or that I'm exaggerating things, or that I'm just too sensitive about things. Come on, man. How is it that you have known me for so long, yet you cannot figure that I have a very curious nature? Just because I like to think, question, wonder, be curious, it doesn't mean that I'm using that to plot something to be a controlling or manipulative person. Again, if I wanted to do that, I would get into politics. I would have become a lawyer to learn how to manipulate people and control the world and control all of you fools. I know I could do it, but I don't wanna. In real life, in person, I sometimes wonder why people's immediate instinct is to think that because you're expressing that, making yourself vulnerable, that it's an attempt at guilt tripping you into something. To me, one of the most beautiful things in the world is to know that someone is so comfortable with me so confident in my presence that they have the guts to make themselves vulnerable and confess something that has the potential of being embarrassing. Someone sharing an insecurity, to me, should be a great source of pride for you, because you have the opportunity to be reassuring for this person, to be like, oh, you know what? I never considered that this could have a hurtful effect on somebody. I'm glad you brought it to my attention. Well, it's just that growing up, I observed my parents doing blah, blah, blah. Or when I was a teen, I once saw a teacher that had this, that, and the other, and therefore I thought I would try it. Anything. You can handle that any number of ways, but instead you immediately want to accuse the other person of having ill intent towards you. And I think that is absurd. And there's nothing more hurtful than you having to fight so hard to convince somebody that you're legit not that scummy of a person just because you had that shit experience with someone else. Even if it was a family member, even if it was a spouse, that you're not condemned to re-experience that with me. Even if it happens often, every person you are with is a new opportunity. So just stop trying to use your past trauma, your past experiences, and let it define you. That was a mistake that I was making. I was thinking, okay, because my father failed me, everyone is going to be an asshole. But nothing like that. I understand how you are so tired of being hurt, and that is so terrifying that you don't eagerly put yourself in places where you know you're going to get hurt. But I also wish that you would understand that not everything that resembles a past incident is condemning it to making that past incident reoccur. Another thing that I learned is that no matter who they are, and I know that this is tough because there are certain titles that people hold in their lives, especially parents, like people who you cannot divorce from, put it that way, and even the people who you can divorce from is not ideal. When something gets this bad and you're seeing the signs and the sources are telling you and people around you are telling you that this is bad for you, this is not going well, you should get away from this person, you have to end it. It is important that you end it because the absolute truth is that this person is no longer good for you. And I feel like a mistake that we tend to make very often that keeps us sunken is we like to relive the good times. It's very hard to accept that even if you have a repertoire of great memories with somebody and you have achieved so many things together, you have built so much together, you have experienced so much together, that maybe that season is over and you have to accept, recognize that that season is over and that this wasn't meant to last forever, even if it felt like it was meant to last forever. And you just really have to let it go. And even if they were once good for you, maybe there's going to be a period of time, let it be days, weeks, months, years, in which they just won't be good for you. Maybe in the future they may be able to come back to your life, maybe not. But when something starts becoming bad to the point that you're just continuously being brought down by this person legit makes you sad, you know that you're experiencing abuse, you have to end it. And that is something that, to me, in the worst relationships I have ever had, I knew that was a thing, I knew that was the truth, I knew that was the reality, but that warrior in me, that personality of mine that's always saying, I want to fix things, I want to resolve things, I don't want to give up, even though I knew that I would regret investing so much time on something that is irreparable, I don't know why I insisted on trying to make things right with a person who very clearly just wasn't right for me. I had the belief that I have the potential of being compatible with everybody in the world. It's kind of like, did you guys ever experience a period in your adolescence in which, especially if you were someone pretty studious, in which you felt like you just knew everything, you knew the key to ridding the world of evil and shit like that, and you just wondered why nobody else could see it but you? And then you bring that into your relationships with people and you always think, my intentions are clear, pure, clean, harmless, best intentions. I really like people. I really love people. I'm here to serve. I want to make people happy. I like to see them smile. I was that person. I was that person who, even though I was shy and I had my reservations about people, I like to keep a degree of distance. I used to be that really warm and welcoming and lively and bubbly personality that everybody just loves to applaud and be like, when I just see you, I just like to smile. You have the just sunniest personality and it's always a joy, blah, blah, blah. But then something just changed, just like it changed for me when I was 14 years old, heading into 15 years old, how I went from being that character to suddenly becoming a very depressed teen with very few moments of joy and very short lived. But then I had another season in which I started going back to being that genuine, kind person because maybe I saw someone who inspired me to go back to my ways and all that. But then the reality is that, again, not everyone is going to be deserving of that from you, and that is okay. But the hardest thing is to recognize when something is over with somebody. Even if you have known someone since your childhood, sometimes life will have a fork on the road and you'll have to take the right side, they'll have to take the left side, you have to split. They may no longer be good for you. Let them go, don't ask them to stay. That is something that I wish I would have had the guts to apply more often. And when I finally had the guts to apply that for real, there were some individuals who refused to leave, even though I was forcing them to leave. I was forcing them out of my life. They decided to stay. And while I cannot say I regret their stay, unfortunately, their stay reminds me of those tumultuous times. And sometimes I wonder if I will ever get over that, to be able to live a perfectly normal and healthy relationship with this person, letting go of that stuff. But at the same time, it's hard to let go of this stuff because sometimes in the present, some of that behavior from that individual will resurface and you already get that anxiety of, oh shit, we're going back to those times. So you fear that because as someone who is anxious and you have a lot of trauma teaching you, that is a stressor. It is a physical stressor. It drains you mentally. And I know that is the case when I rid myself of this toxic person and then suddenly my energy levels skyrocket even more than I'm naturally energetic. And people legit tell me that I'm starting to glow even though I'm not doing anything different. And it really sucks that it is possible for someone to be so wrong for you that they legit suck the life out of you. It's not your fault. It really isn't. Don't waste too much time trying to wait for that good time to come back. Accept that maybe it won't come back, and if it does, it may not be anytime soon. And to feed off what I just said, another thing that I can say I learned is that you will learn the state of your self-esteem, how little self-respect you have, and what your true needs are whenever you're involved with someone who's emotionally abusive towards you. And the reason I say that is because I remember times in which, especially in health classes, I always thought my self-esteem is pretty high. But then little by little, I began to self-scrutinize as my depression truly began to sink in. And then I said, my self-esteem is under attack. But then when you meet somebody who legit brings you down, your self-esteem will hit the floor. And it'll probably stay there unless you open the door to other people to help you and support you and you truly believe it and embrace it. One problem that I had is, even though I was getting a lot of compliments in a variety of things, I had a tendency of not accepting them. So when I was, I want to say, around 18 or 19 years old, that's when I finally said to myself, you know what? When someone gives me a compliment, the only right answer is to just say thanks. Just say thank you. Don't try to be like, oh, if only you knew how messy I am at home. If only you knew that sometimes I have days in which I don't take a shower. If only you saw me when I eat without any control since I don't work out back in the day. I gained some pounds and my clothes don't fit me right, all that type of shit. Don't try to invalidate someone's compliment. All you gotta do is say thanks. Whether you hate your hair and someone says, you have the most beautiful hair, like I heard today, all you gotta do is say thanks. Don't entertain it, don't add to it, let it go. But at the same time, be like, oh, nice, a compliment. Great. At the same time, don't try to fish compliments because that's something that I see on other people. That's not something I necessarily do, but I just thought I would throw it out there. As fucked up in the head as you are from someone emotionally abusing you, don't try to get validation from everybody else in the world. If anything, find someone to recur to, someone to confide in, who you know is wise on these things, or follow your gut and be like, for some reason I get a very strong impulse to pick this random acquaintance and open up a little bit to them. Why am I doing that? And then I discovered that sometimes it is very nice to recur to someone who you may not know that well because they may give you a very objective opinion. And that also opens the door to you establishing a legit good connection with somebody because you are allowing this person an opportunity to influence you. And because you followed your gut and your intuition, I look at it as perfect. It never makes any mistakes. That's your superpower. You sniffed out this person. And if I describe it from a religious perspective, I do believe that this person is intended to act as an agent from God to help pull you from your difficult times. And I can tell you that every single time I have opened up to someone, even if it's just one time, it happened to be the right person and it happened to be at the right time, at the right place, and they just never failed me. And that is something that makes me super proud. And even if their season is over, however long it lasted, you know that it lasted for the right amount of time, because once that person left, you feel like their protection expired, but you get to put yourself to the test and apply whatever weapon this person gave you. This is your opportunity to apply it now that you're out in the wild, out in the field by yourself. That lets you see if you truly grasped the lesson. And if you didn't, then you're going to fall back into that black hole. But if you did grasp it, then this is the test. You get to see the score at the very end of it. You'll find out if you did well, you'll find out if you failed. In conclusion, last but not least, it's all dark and gloomy being in an emotionally abusive relationship. Everything feels cloudy, your energy is drained, your skin legit starts to gray out, your eyes look tired and soulless. But I can tell you that it is possible to heal from it. Every time you heal from it, it's like you gain strength, or you upgrade from your old armor, which was probably made of wood, and you upgrade it to something metallic, and then you start testing which metal is better based on every hit that you get from the emotional abuse. Keep trying. Keep finding ways to upgrade. Whatever you do, don't go back to being made of wood, and definitely do not go back to being made of glass. Whatever stage being made of glass was, don't go back to that. And for me, my favorite thing is, again, even though I'm not out there with people and I'm not an absolute lover of humanity, I can say that you will meet a person who will help you heal. But this person may not be obvious to you that this is your healer. They're not gonna have a name tag that reads healer or doctor, and it won't always be obvious that what they're telling you is healing you, but you just have to be able to pick up on it. Whenever someone is telling you something and they have no idea that you're deeply hurt, learn to recognize when you're receiving a blessing. I can say that that channel, making all these topics, sharing my experience and putting my thoughts into actual spoken words or written words on pages. It has helped me realize that learning opportunities and healing opportunities are hidden all over, but they're so easy to miss. And sometimes a very mundane conversation, when you're hurt, you never know when it'll resurface. And for me, my favorite thing is when out of the blue, I can be like, oh, the other day I happened to have this person mention something about how I need to stay hydrated. Well, I remembered to hydrate and I drank a ton of water and I felt great. Something about that person giving me the reminder a month ago. I applied it a month later, but I can say that, yeah, I feel great and I'm glad that that wisdom was repeated to me. Something basic, mundane, obvious knowledge that you already know. Maybe someone reminding you of it when you're down is all you needed. It doesn't have to come from a parent, it doesn't have to come from your significant other. It could be the most random person that maybe you overhear. They have no idea that they're influencing you for the better. I don't think that's an accident. I think it really had to happen like that. And I really like it when sometimes I can credit those random instances as opposed to being like, well, only the people I allow to influence me. Like I have explained before here about how I have my top 2 people who I check in with every day. Then there's my third person who at least I make sure I check in with once a week. And then I have maybe 2 more that at least once a month I feel compelled to keep track of. And then there's that one person who, no matter what happens, will always hear from me. It's still possible, of course, that your major influence for the day may come out of that circle. So I don't ever want to make it seem like I only allow for those handful of people to teach me things. All I'm saying is that those people have a different kind of authority over me as a person. But lessons to help you go through life may be hidden in plain sight, and they may be hidden in the form of random people. And the best thing about meeting this person, no matter how temporary their presence is that they may help you unleash your own potential, and or you will learn to let go of even more people who you realize are not as good for you as you thought they were. And I think that is a pretty hard conclusion to arrive to, because we tend to be very nostalgic creatures. We really like to hold on to what we remember about somebody and be like, yeah, this was such a fun time, that one time 8 years ago when we did this, that, and the other. Ah, fuck. It's over. Let it go. It's hard because I'm that person who I have said numerous times, I'm looking for stability. I like loyalty, fidelity, and I defend that shit with everything that I have. And it's a shame that you're not always paired up with people who have those exact values and they give you your place just like you give them their place. Don't ask them to stay. Don't fight for them. They wouldn't put you in this situation in the first place. And that is something that I wish I would have learned a little sooner. And again, this doesn't have anything to do with someone, say, like a parent or a boyfriend that I may have had. This is a compilation of people who I once cared about very profoundly, but then I said, you know what? I'm fighting so hard for you, but you're not even trying to fight for me either. Because, life is that. Life is battle after battle after battle, and you don't see me worthy of a battle. Why keep fighting for you? Let it go. They are no longer good for you. I'm just grateful that when I say let them go, you have to end it, they're no longer good for you, I know exactly who told me that, where I was at, when, and the effect it had on me. It was so improbable for me to have heard those words because, first of all, I had to be willing to speak, and second of all, I had to be willing to stay at a specific place for a little longer when I was ready to leave that place. And I think had I missed out on this person telling me that, I'm not sure if the universe would have still made it possible for me to have heard that exact phrase or something that would have given me the same meaning. But I'm just glad that I received that message at the time that I did, because that at the end of 2021 prepared me for this and turned me into the person that's more confident in that area of my life, to where I can say that I'm healing. I have healed from a lot, and that my self esteem is at least not on the ground anymore. I was living with my self esteem on the ground for a long time, and it sucks because I was aware that I wasn't like that. I wasn't made to be like that. But I guess I needed to be trapped on entry level, on that low level, so that I learned to survive with very little. When I'm hurt and without any weapons on me, any defense on me, any armor on me. And once I make it through this, now I feel like I can make it through anything. And that's why I always say that I don't like to avoid challenges or avoid adversity. Maybe that's why I thrive in it, because I've been so used to it that I miss it when I don't have it, but I can appreciate when I don't have it what it did for me. It's like working out. You break down your muscles, you get tired, you sweat, you stink, you lose nutrients. But once you replenish, your body's like a garden. You start seeing things blooming. The mind is no different from what I have learned. Well, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in. This was a kind of a weird topic for me, because I don't habitually dwell on what I consider to be some of my darker sides. And to me, the emotional abuse I have experienced, I never fully ever defined it or flesh it out. I never use names, of course. I never describe exact situations, because I feel like it's not necessary. Those situations live in my memory. I have coped with them and dealt with them, and some of them I'm still processing. But I like observing myself, projecting it outwardly. Do I express it with anger? Do I express it with sadness? Does it shut me down? Anything like that? The sole fact that I was able to share this at all, to me, is a big achievement, because years ago, I carried a lot of guilt and shame that when I feel that way, it's like it mutes me, tape over my mouth, unable to speak. But the sole fact that I got this far on this very topic is a big deal. And I just want to acknowledge it for myself and give myself credit, because I tend to really sell myself short. But I also like to also put it out there so that I can maybe give somebody hope, because I know I'm not going to be the last person in the world to go through this. Maybe in the same manner that a randomer once pulled me out of a dark situation, maybe this is my way of paying it forward, and maybe you running into this will help you. And there's nothing that I like more in the world than serving. Even if I don't exactly serve in the most meaningful of ways, I don't save lives. If there's something that nobody can ever take away from me, is my confidence in my thoughts. No matter how positive or how negative they are, I think that if I'm able to have these thoughts, a brain that functions to this capacity, and I'm putting it out so consistently, almost daily, I think that is my gift, and nothing brings me more life than journaling. And that's why I can do this like it's nothing. All right, I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.